r/AskReddit by Redmond ETS. What's a secret that could tear your entire family apart? I look like a mixture of my uncle, by marriage, and my mother. I don't have a genetic condition my sister does, even though I definitely should. When I brought this up to my mother, she avoided the question. My sister and father both did ancestry DNA testing. Found some new relatives because my dad was adopted. When I mentioned I would do it as well, my mother got very defensive and outright mad, demanding I swear I won't do it. I don't look anything like my dad. Gonna be a wild Christmas this year when I get the results back of my test I did behind everyone's back. Update. I'll update when results come back in a month or so or longer. I don't know how long it takes. This blew up crazy. Uncle molested like everyone. I mean, he's in a prison now, so I guess it already did that. The real secret is that everyone on the family swept it under the rug and protected him while the kids were getting raped, and then when this uncle was in the hot seat with the law, the family excommunicated the only person brave enough to come forward. The guy's own daughter. I met my blood family when I was around 16. Around 18 I found out that there is a family member with special needs of some kind, although I'm not sure whose child it is, where they are, or what their exact condition is. However, upon me asking about her, after she contacted me via social media, I was simply told, we don't really talk about her, kind of a family rule. That's all I have been and will be told, and I haven't heard from her or from them about her for years. My sibling and I are the sole heirs of my grandparents. They are not our actual grandparents and never had kids, so no one can dispute their decision. I have lots of cousins. Everyone thought I was miserable on Thanksgiving. The reality is that I was sober and dealing with all the triggers for the first time in 10 years. I've been nearly blacked out drunk for every family holiday since I was like 17 or 18. A couple of years ago, my family and I met up with my parents' grandma siblings and their families at a big beach house in North Myrtle Beach for family vacation. I had gotten really into my ancestry and was doing all kinds of research on top, doing the little DNA kits and all that stuff. These ancestry services link you to folks who you share common ancestry with, so is your fourth cousin. Yada yada. I was sharing some fun harmless findings with my dad, oldest brother, and grandma out on the deck, and then I bring up how I thought it was odd that 3 of my cousins born to my dad's older brother were popping up as my second or third cousins. The middle daughter in that trio had her ancestry stuff done through the same service as me, so her profile was linked to mine immediately. So I say, why does H show up as a second or third cousin if she's my first cousin? Uncle B's daughters should be my first cousins. Grandma gets up without a word and walks into the house and right to her room. My oldest brother and dad share a look between each other where I could tell they were both on the same wavelength about something I was oblivious to, and my dad says, well, I guess that answers that question. My oldest brother, who is 11 years older than me and is from my dad's first marriage, lets me in on the family rumor that had been circulating long before I was born. When my late grandfather was overseas serving in the Korean War, it is alleged that my grandma, who was still just my grandpa's girlfriend at the time, got pregnant with Uncle B by another man. Some ex from her high school days whose name my dad seemed to remember being brought up in arguments between his parents when he was a kid. My grandpa came home from the war, they got married immediately, and I guess the math of when Uncle B was born and when my grandpa came home lined up just enough to make it believable that Uncle B was indeed my grandpa's firstborn son. But Uncle B looks nothing like my dad and the other 2 brothers. He's short and has a different look to him, whereas my dad and his younger brothers are all tall behemoths of men whom resemble each other and their dad. I never thought of it before, but now when I look at photos I can't help but notice just how different Uncle B appears in comparison. My ancestry discovery and my grandmother's reaction to it basically gave that rumor steady legs to stand on. And we have not spoken about it since that night. Only my dad, brother and I 100% know. And at this point we see no reason to bring it to light. Edit. In addition, My cousin H has her ancestry profile set to private so I can't see her tree, but if she did her DNA ancestry thing too, I'm sure she has discovered the truth as well. So I'm assuming at least she knows as well that her dad has a different dad than my grandpa. Though they tried for years to convince me my father was the scum of the earth, horrible evil person, they were actually the problem and he's a great guy. I was sexually abused by a family member when I was 6. I'm 37 now. Until a couple of weeks ago, I had never told a soul and had no plan to. I told my therapist and it has helped a lot. My family doesn't know, though the person who did it certainly does, and we have a very small family. I've been constantly conflicted about opening this topic for discussion. I worry it would rip my family apart and leave me isolated. Edit to add, this is easily the most public I've ever been sharing this information, and I did so hesitantly. It's been a rough burden to bear and I constantly wonder how much of who I am has been shaped and formed by holding this inside, trying to be strong. I thank you all for the kind words and support. My daughter was sexually abused by my brother, her uncle, and I can say that it did tear our family apart. I have felt abandoned by my parents and others, and after several years of torturous isolation that occurred simultaneously with divorce, I have rebuilt relationships with those family members who I want to. It's a super illogically odd and extremely common situation that, as a survivor of sexual abuse, you're the person left creating space for family to coexist. I am sorry this happened to you. The sheer amount of shit my family talks behind each other's backs. I'm the youngest of the family and no one thinks I listen, so I've heard everything. It's out of the good grace of my heart that I keep it to myself. I have so much blackmail and use none of it. A shame really. Edit. Some of you have asked for the juicy details, so here's a few of the best tidbits. The entire family thinks my cousin is an irresponsible dumpster fire and that his fiancée is too good for him. Yes, you read that right. Everyone likes the fiancé more than the family member. Yikes. Absolutely everyone hates my dad's parents. We all barely tolerate them for the inheritance. Everyone's hoping they kick it sooner rather than later. It'd certainly make the holidays more pleasant. My aunt is cheap as they come. There's a running joke that if any one of us will be a millionaire, it'll be her. Almost never pays for herself and she's still single and has been for decades. The family's accepted she'll probably die single at this rate. My family also has a weird problem with her living in a condo at 48 for some reason. I'm not often there for the gossip about my own family for obvious reasons, but I can only assume much of it revolves around how my mom deserves a better husband than my dad. Edit 2. Since there has been a multitude of misunderstandings, let me be clear. No, I don't gossip about my friends. No, I don't think living in a condo is bad. No, I don't enjoy the constant tension. And no, I won't share any more personal details about the situation. My poor sweet inbox, you have been abused. My grandparents convinced my father I was not his. They changed their minds after they saw me, but not his mind. Never raised it. His siblings don't know the awfulness this created for me and my mom. Neither does my brother. Therapy. 5 years. B. My brother has a child he abandoned before birth and has told no one about. My mom found out through one of his friends. No one discusses it. C. My cousin is adopted. Not allowed to discuss. D. My uncle is polyamorous. No one knows but me through his very brief, mistaken Facebook post to that community. E. We don't talk about the German branch, Nazi history. F. No one talks about great-grandmother abandoning 3 children and the old country for adventure in this one. She was a saint, of course. Not going to break apart the family, but I'm curious about what happens to family gatherings once my grandma passes away. She's 94 and in pretty good health for her age. She's also one of the most petty and mean-spirited women I've ever met. I'm curious what comes out when her health starts spiraling. There's a very thinly veiled hatred of my mother and both my aunts. One has a child from a previous marriage that has been cut out of the will, which has been causing problems for the last 2 decades. Christmas gifts are always cash and he's been getting mega shafted. 1 year a few years ago me, my sister and bio cousin all got $1,000. He got $1. He's never invited on vacations but my aunt and uncle are, etc. My other aunt is a bit of an alcoholic when my grandma is around, and only when she's around, and is definitely not afraid to speak her mind. Meanwhile all this shit means I see the extended family maybe once a year and my cousins I was close with growing up are now rather distant, although that's on me because I'm terrible at communicating and reaching out to anyone. My girlfriend was in dental school and needed patience. My stepdad volunteered and checked the HIV/AIDS box. She asked if it was a mistake, and he smiled and said, "Nope. And you can't tell anyone due to HIV/AIDS." Turns out he cheated on my mom back in 2015 and contracted the virus. I still don't know if my mom is positive because if I bring it up he will 100% come after my now wife for her career or money. I ain't all that straight. Why does your whole family care this much about your sexual status? They praise our Lord Jesus Christ. Satan shall not take this soul. My grandparents cheated on each other at different points in time. The results are that I have an uncle who is a decade younger than me, but they may not be biologically related to me since my grandfather may not be biologically my grandfather. I am the only one who knows this as both have told me and only me. I'm an adult. My father got drunk while on vacation and I thought he was calling me to just chat but he ended up hitting on me and confessing that he's attracted to me. I haven't said anything because my mother has a heart condition and I am afraid the stress would literally kill her. I told him that wasn't okay and he hasn't brought it up since but it makes family gatherings awful and I hate that now I can't see my mom without feeling super uncomfortable because I also have to see him. He's never been weird with me before this so I was just in shock during that conversation. Did I mention he confessed this after I updated him on the status of a police report I made against an ex-partner who raped me? The whole thing is so messed up I just try not to think about it. My grandmother is really my aunt. My mother has actively cheated on my father multiple times. Me and my sister think it's only online for the most part but at least once she slept with some who was living with them at the time a few years ago. My dad has pretty much been in the closet all his 86 years. Me, my wife and daughter are the only family that knows, and it would be a monumental, epic shit show with the conservative family if it was known. That's all folks. Thank you for watching. If you like videos like this one, why not like and subscribe for more? Have a nice evening.